Picture this: a director so particular about his casting that he'd rather cancel an entire movie than cast the wrong actor. That actually happened. Just last year, Tarantino scrapped The Movie Critic completely because the casting wasn't perfect. And yet, when he finds an actor who speaks his language, who gets the rhythm, the pauses, the madness, he'll move heaven and earth to work with them again, and again, and again. Over 30 years, Quentin Tarantino has made just 9 films. 9. But in those 9 films, he's created more iconic characters than most directors manage in a lifetime. How? Because he doesn't just cast actors. He builds empires around voices. And once you're in his inner circle, you're not just cast. You're carved into cinema history forever. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's most exclusive club. The actors Tarantino trusts with his words, his vision, his legacy. These aren't just performers. They're the architects of his universe. And before we dive in, if you love vintage Hollywood stories with a twist, hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear might change how you watch movies forever. Let's start with a confession straight from Tarantino himself. In August 2025, he revealed something shocking. Of all his masterpieces, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Django, his personal favorite is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But here's the kicker. He called Inglourious Basterds his best work and Kill Bill the movie he was born to make. 3 different answers for 3 different questions. That's Tarantino. Never simple, always deliberate. And that same complexity shows in how he chooses his actors. There's something most people miss about Tarantino's casting. It's not about star power. Brad Pitt was already huge when Tarantino cast him. So was DiCaprio. But that's not why they got the roles. Tarantino casts like a composer choosing instruments. Each actor hits a specific note that nobody else can reach. And once he finds that note, he writes entire symphonies around it. Samuel L. Jackson once revealed the secret. Tarantino's sets ban all phones, all electronics, no scrolling between takes. Instead, there's music, storytelling, actual conversation. It creates something rare in modern Hollywood: connection, trust, family. And that's why the same faces keep coming back. Not because they're available, because they're irreplaceable. 6 films, 30 years, one partnership that redefined modern cinema, but it almost never happened. When Samuel L. Jackson walked into that audition room for Pulp Fiction in 1994, he wasn't auditioning. His exact words were, "And this is real, I didn't audition. I claimed that role like it was written in my blood." Tarantino had actually written Jules Winfield for another actor entirely. But the moment Jackson started speaking, everything changed. The director later admitted, "When Sam delivered those lines, I heard my words the way they existed in my head for the first time. It was like finding out your writing had a voice you never knew existed." That voice has generated over $5 billion at the box office across their collaborations. But the money isn't the point. Jackson doesn't just deliver Tarantino's dialogue. He conducts it like a symphony. In Jackie Brown, his character, Ordell Robbie, was supposed to be pure menace. Jackson made him charming, terrifying, and charming. That duality broke critics' brains. Roger Ebert called it one of the best performances of the 90s. But their most controversial collaboration came in Django Unchained. Jackson played Steven, a house slave who sides with his master against Django. The role was so dark, so complex, that Jackson initially turned it down. Tarantino flew to Jackson's house, and they talked for 6 hours straight. Not about the movie, about American history, about violence, about the stories we don't tell. By sunrise, Jackson had agreed. That performance earned controversy, acclaim, and something Jackson himself revealed this year. It should have earned an Oscar nomination. In a recent interview, Jackson said both he and DiCaprio deserved nominations for Django. The Academy gave it to Christoph Waltz instead, his second win for a Tarantino film. But Jackson wasn't bitter. His exact quote, "My criteria for awards seems different from everyone else's. Here's what nobody talks about. Tarantino hasn't made a single film since 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the first time Jackson wasn't in a Tarantino film in decades. Coincidence? Industry insiders say Tarantino's next film, shooting in December 2025, already has Jackson's name attached. Because some partnerships don't end, they just pause between masterpieces. Before Uma Thurman, Tarantino wrote women who existed in men's stories. After Uma Thurman, he wrote women who were the story. That shift didn't happen overnight. It happened in a single dance. Vincent and Mia's twist contest in Pulp Fiction wasn't in the original script. Tarantino added it after meeting Thurman. He saw something in how she moved, how she held silence, how she could be dangerous without touching a weapon. But their real collaboration, their masterpiece, almost killed her, literally. During Kill Bill's production, Thurman crashed a car doing a stunt Tarantino insisted she perform herself. Her neck, her knees, permanent damage. The footage was buried for 15 years. When it finally surfaced, it nearly destroyed their relationship and Tarantino's reputation. Yet here's what's extraordinary. Thurman didn't just forgive him, she defended him. In 2018, she said, "Quentin and I have our issues, but we also have our love. It's complicated, but it's real. And real is what made it last." The Bride remains the only character Tarantino ever built an entire universe around. 2 films, 4 hours, one woman's revenge that redefined what female action heroes could be. No quips, no romance, just rage transformed into art. Tarantino later confessed something stunning. He said, "I don't think I'll ever create a character more powerful than the Bride, and I wouldn't want to unless it's with Uma." That's not nostalgia talking. In 2023, rumors surfaced that Tarantino's final film might be Kill Bill Volume 3. Thurman's daughter Maya Hawke would play the bride's grown daughter. Uma would return as the mentor. The circle would close. Those rumors were never confirmed, but Tarantino never denied them either. This is the story nobody tells. In 2008, Tarantino was ready to quit. Not retire, quit. Inglourious Basterds had been in development for a decade. The script was perfect, except for one problem. Hans Landa, the main villain, was uncastable. Too smart, too charming, too evil. Tarantino auditioned actors in 5 languages across 3 continents. Nothing worked. His exact words were, "If I couldn't find Landa, the movie was dead. And if the movie died, I didn't know if I had another one in me." Then, on the last day of casting, a 52-year-old Austrian TV actor walked in. Christoph Waltz had been acting for 30 years. Nobody in America knew his name. Within 10 minutes, Tarantino knew he'd found his monster. But here's what's remarkable. Waltz didn't play Landa as written. He played him better. The script had Landa speaking 4 languages. Waltz spoke them fluently, plus added a 5th just for flavor. Tarantino gave him 20-page monologues. Waltz memorized them, then improvised transitions that made them even longer. Any other director would have cut him off. Tarantino gave him more. The result? An Oscar, instant fame, and a performance so definitive that Tarantino immediately wrote another role for him. Dr. King Schultz in Django Unchained was Landa's opposite. Kind where Landa was cruel, warm where Landa was cold. Tarantino's test was simple. Could the same actor who made you fear him make you love him? Another Oscar. The only actor to win twice for Tarantino films. But here's the twist. After Django, Tarantino hasn't cast Waltz again. Not in Hateful Eight, not in Hollywood. When asked why, Tarantino said something profound. Some instruments are so precise, you only play them when the symphony demands perfection. You don't waste a Stradivarius on practice scales. For 20 years, Leonardo DiCaprio played heroes, victims, dreamers. Then Tarantino handed him pure evil, and DiCaprio didn't just accept it, he bled for it, literally. The most famous scene in Django Unchained wasn't scripted. DiCaprio slammed his hand on a table, shattered a glass, sliced his palm open. Real blood, real pain. He kept acting. Tarantino kept filming. But that's not the remarkable part. The remarkable part is what DiCaprio did with that blood. He smeared it on Kerry Washington's face. She didn't know it was coming. Her terror was real. Tarantino called it the most committed piece of acting he'd ever witnessed. DiCaprio called it Tuesday. Calvin Candy should have been cartoonish. A plantation owner who thinks he's sophisticated, who feeds slaves to dogs for sport. DiCaprio made him believable. Worse, he made him magnetic. You couldn't look away even when you desperately wanted to. That's the DiCaprio gift. He makes monsters human, which makes them infinitely more terrifying. 5 years later, Tarantino called with another role, Rick Dalton in Hollywood, the opposite of Candy, a fading Western star, anxious, alcoholic, past his prime. DiCaprio took a character who could have been pathetic and made him heartbreaking. The scene where Dalton breaks down in his trailer after forgetting his lines? That wasn't just acting. DiCaprio later revealed he was channeling every anxiety about his own career, his own relevance, his own mortality. 2 films, 2 completely different characters, both among Tarantino's best. When asked if DiCaprio would return for the final film, Tarantino smiled and said, "Leo brings weight, not physical weight, spiritual weight, history. Every role he's ever played stands behind him. That's rare. That's power." Brad Pitt waited 25 years to win an Oscar for acting. He won it for Tarantino. That's not a coincidence. It's a culmination. Pitt and Tarantino first worked together on True Romance, though Tarantino only wrote it. They reunited for Inglourious Basterds, where Pitt played Aldo Raine with a ridiculous accent that shouldn't have worked but absolutely did. But their masterpiece was Cliff Booth in Hollywood. A stuntman who might have killed his wife, who definitely killed more in war, who lives behind a drive-in theater with his pit bull. On paper, he's a loser. On screen, Pitt made him the coolest character of the decade. The way he moved, the way he didn't speak, the way he took off his shirt to fix a roof and made it feel like mythology. Here's what Tarantino revealed in 2025. Cliff Booth is getting his own movie. Not directed by Tarantino, he's only writing it, but it's happening. Pitt's returning. The story follows Booth's war years, his stunt years, what really happened with his wife. It might be the only time Tarantino's ever expanded a character's story beyond his own films. But there's more. That mysterious December 2025 production? Industry sources confirm Pitt's name is attached. Could this be Tarantino's 10th and final film? The director who swears he'll retire at 10, who canceled the movie critic because it wasn't perfect, bringing back the actor who finally got his Oscar? The symmetry is almost too perfect. Some actors are guests in Tarantino's universe. Michael Madsen helped build it. Reservoir Dogs, 1992, Tarantino's first film. Madsen's Mr. Blonde didn't just cut off a cop's ear. He did it while dancing to Stuck in the Middle with You. That scene traumatized audiences. It also announced a new voice in cinema. Violent, playful, unforgettable. Madsen never became a superstar like Jackson or Pitt. He didn't need to. Tarantino kept writing him parts. Small ones, essential ones. Kill Bill's Bud, the only assassin who defeated the bride. Hateful Eight's Joe Gage, who barely speaks but dominates every frame. Hollywood gave him a cameo that lasted 30 seconds and still felt important. Tarantino calls Madsen family, not cast. They don't just work together, they think together. Madsen knows Tarantino's rhythm so well he can perform scenes without direction. Just show up, say the lines, find the silence between words. That's trust money can't buy. Here's what nobody knows. Madsen was supposed to play Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction. Travolta's career-defining role was written for Madsen, but Madsen was already committed to another film. So Tarantino made Vincent and Madsen's Vic Vega from Reservoir Dogs brothers. He planned a Vega Brothers prequel for years. It never happened, but the intention matters. In Tarantino's mind, Madsen isn't just in his films, he connects them. There's a pattern here, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Jackson, Thurman, Waltz, DiCaprio, Pitt. Madsen, they're not just Tarantino's favorite actors. They're his autobiography. Each one represents a different phase of his career, a different obsession, a different version of himself. Jackson is his voice, literally delivering Tarantino's thoughts. Thurman is his ambition, the impossible stories only he would attempt. Waltz is his precision, the perfect marriage of writing and performance. DiCaprio is his darkness, the parts of humanity he's fascinated and repelled by. Pitt is his coolness, the myth of Hollywood he both loves and satirizes. Madsen is his roots, the grindhouse beginning that started everything. Together, they're not just a cast, they're a constellation. And Tarantino's been mapping the stars for 30 years. As we speak, Tarantino is writing. Maybe his last film, maybe a play that becomes his last film, maybe something nobody expects. But whoever stars in it, whatever story it tells, it won't be random. Every choice Tarantino makes is deliberate. Every actor, every line, every pause between words. That's why his films endure. In an industry obsessed with franchises and sequels, Tarantino makes monuments. 9 films in 30 years, each one a closed universe, each one eternal. And the actors we've talked about today, they're not just in those universes, they are those universes. So here's the question that changes everything. If Tarantino's next film really is his last, which of these actors returns? All of them? None of them? Or does he surprise us one final time with someone completely new? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Who do you think deserves that final spotlight? And if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of film lover this channel exists for. Hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and let's keep exploring the stories behind Hollywood's greatest legends. Because the best stories, they're the ones nobody else is telling. Until next time, remember, in Tarantino's world, there are no small parts, only small actors. And the ones we talked about today, they're giants. Every single one.